So I mean, it is what it is. Hazing has always been a part of Black Greek life. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Miss Titus 2, and as promised, I'm back with another video on Greek life. Since some of you guys asked for my opinion on Christians pledging Black fraternities and sororities, I decided to do an entire project on it. I'm aware that Greek life probably doesn't seem like an apologetics issue, but since a lot of these organizations claim to be based on Christian principles, I absolutely believe it's an apologetics issue.
Many are called, few are chosen.
Previously, I gave a list of reasons why I think Christians shouldn't pledge. In this video, we're going to specifically focus on hazing. As a recap, hazing is pretty much when people are forced to perform humiliating or potentially dangerous initiation rituals. All 9 of the Black Greek lettered organizations claim to be non-hazing.
Omega Psi Phi Fraternity is a non-hazing organization.
Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated is a non-pledging, non-hazing organization.
But then they also claim that hazing is used to break people down to then build them back up.
The process, quote unquote, is supposed to break you down to your lowest point and build you up.
And that was the purpose of having a process, you to be broken down to be built back up.
Essentially what Greek organizations, what we have to do while you're online is like tear you down to build you back up.
Break you down to build you up.
Broken down to be built back up.
People always say they break you down to build you up.
That's what they do at set. They curse at you. They call you names. You're good for nothing. You'll never become a Zeta. You'll never become an AKA, whatever. And they beat you down to build you up.
Hazing is common within Greek life as a whole, but it tends to look a little different between white fraternities and Black fraternities. In white fraternities, it's more so about drinking.
Act of hazing left the 19-year-old with a blood alcohol content nearly 4 times the legal driving limit.
But in Black fraternities, physical violence is way more common.
Do you believe hazing is worse in African-American colleges and fraternities?
Yes, I'm not saying that hazing does not exist in other organizations, but the physical brand of hazing that we encounter, and I've been researching this for over 20 years at this point. I went through the fraternity experience and that I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi.
Especially paddling. I mean, paddling is so common, you might even see a paddle at a probate. Paddling is exactly what it sounds like. People get hit with wooden paddles.
Directly in the buttocks.
And from what I hear, it hurts a whole lot.
When I was online, I got beat. My behind got like split.
I was really okay with being paddled in order to join something. Ain't that crazy? I was okay with being hit with a hanger.
In the book Black Haze, Ricky Jones quotes a white fraternity member who compared Black fraternity hazing to white fraternity hazing. A member of Phi Kappa Tau summarizes differences in Black and white hazing accurately when he states that physical hazing occurs much less frequently in white groups. In reviewing cases and reading things, I think there are differences in what the hazing vehicles are. I see the Black groups as being a lot more physical. I see the white Greeks using alcohol more frequently and playing more mental games. A lot of this goes to definitions of manhood, masculinity, what it is. What it means to be a man in the Black sense, it means to be strong, defend yourself, stand up for yourself physically. Many times we have the skewed sense in whites that the more alcohol you can drink, the more manly you are.
You do have hazing in white groups, but you find a lot of alcohol abuse and pranks going on in those groups. There are no registered student organizations at HBCUs or at predominantly white schools where we, with the frequency that we see with this, find the levels of physical abuse in Black Greek letter organizations and in HBCU bands. We just don't find it.
I mean, all hazing is bad, but physical beatings, that's another whole level of torture.
He ain't heavy, he my brother.
If I had to give 2 reasons why I personally believe people subject themselves to hazing, I think it mostly boils down to popularity and respect.
Sometimes when people get those letters, the popularity is like an instant thing.
These 3 letters may not seem like they make that much of a difference, but I promise you.
When the mask come off, instant celebrity.
People might pledge for genuine brotherhood and sisterhood relationships, but they get hazed for the clout.
The point is, these students want to belong.
It's instant status if I'm a young woman. It's instant play if I'm a young man. And people are drawn to that.
And why are you pledging? Well, because no other sorority on campus can step like the Alpha Deltas.
There's typically 2 different ways people can pledge a Black Greek organization. They can do the by the book membership intake process, or they can do the route of underground pledging.
Yes, some chapters still try to haze like back in the day, paddles, make you eat dog food, all kind of stuff like that.
Underground pledging is usually where the paddling, the thunderclaps, and the slaps come in. It might seem like a no-brainer to pledge MIP and do things by the book, but unfortunately people who pledge that way don't usually get the same amount of respect as someone who goes through an underground process.
Our group, we wanted to be hazed because we didn't want to be considered fakes.
People start to treat people differently. And it's unfortunate because then that causes for a broken line.
And I kid you not, there are sorority sisters out here. Just because that one person didn't go through what that other person went through, they automatically don't claim them, make their life hell, make the campus know that they ain't pledged.
In their chapter of African American fraternities and sororities entitled In the Fell Clutch of Circumstance, Tamara L. Brown and Gregory S. Parks comment on the two-tier system within Greek life. Despite BGLO officials' protestations against pledging, it has been argued that these same officials do not respect members who do not pledge. Even if this is not true, the mere perception that it is true has consequences, namely prospective members desiring to pledge. This perception, combined with the advent of the MIP, has created a two-tier system within BGLOs. The top tier consists of individuals who have pledged, and the bottom tier consists of those who have taken the MIP route to membership. Due to these factors, non-pledged members often stick out like sore thumbs among pledged members and may not be respected because of these differences. And to add insult to injury, a lot of times MIP members are referred to as paper, which means they basically just signed a piece of paper to get into the organization.
I still have people right now on my Facebook and Twitter page saying that, well, if you're a paper member of a fraternity, if you didn't go through that sort of test that I went through.
But a lot of people dislike paper people pledges because they just paid and they signed.
But there's no real sisterhood. Don't nobody want to be paper, because when you paper, guess what? You're going to be like the outcast.
Do y'all know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Dr. Seuss's The Sneetches.
Did you say Sneetches? Yes, Sneetches.
So the Sneetches were these weird little yellow creatures that lived on this island, and some had stars on their bellies and some didn't have stars on their bellies. Guess who got treated better?
You would think such a thing wouldn't matter at all.
The star-bellied Sneetches were so mean to the plain-bellied Sneetches.
Yeah, your belly's got no star.
I mean, there was like some intense prejudice.
They'd have nothing to do with a plain-belly sort.
Excluded them from everything. They didn't talk to them. They were just mean. So one day this outsider shows up on the island and he's got this machine that can add stars and take stars away. So you got Sneetches jumping in and then some jumping back out. And then by the end of the story, nobody can tell who's a real star-belly Sneetch and who's a real plain-belly Sneetch. It just got ridiculous. Have we learned nothing? The irony in all this is that black fraternities were started because black people were excluded from white fraternities.
Outside the classroom, there was no social interaction between the races in sports, study, or Greek life.
But I digress. I understand why BGLOs want to distance themselves from hazing, but they really can't because the organizations were bred within the culture of hazing.
I can tell you the process back in the day was brutal. The pledge process was brutal.
Walter Kimbrough talks about this in Black Greek 101. He says, "It is within this culture of hazing that fraternities and sororities were born. This includes historically black organizations as well. Between 1906 and 1922, when the 8 largest black collegiate Greek-lettered organizations were founded, higher education perpetuated a culture of hazing. The hazing in higher education occurred at all types of institutions, including historically black colleges." So I mean, it is what it is. Hazing has always been a part of black Greek life.
I said it. I'm not taking it back. I meant
As you never do.
And I'm not.
But what really concerns me about it are all of the consequences that come along with it if people get caught. People who get caught being hazed can be blackballed from the organization they're trying to pledge in the first place, not to mention they can get hurt or even die. And then students who get caught hazing other students, they can also be kicked out of their fraternity or sorority. And if someone gets hurt, they can be charged with simple assault, battery, or kidnapping.
Go to jail.
In my last video, we talked about Joel Harris, the Morehouse student who unfortunately passed away while he was trying to pledge Alpha Phi Alpha. After Joel's death, every member involved in that hazing incident was sued. Walter Kimbrough says, for the death of Joel Harris in 1989, both Alpha Phi Alpha and Morehouse settled for about $500,000 each. The family then sued each member of the chapter there, approximately 30 students. The $13 million suit was projected to cost each man 20 to 25% of his earnings for a period of 20 to 25 years. They too settled for the maximum value of their parents' homeowners' insurance policies. Now call me crazy, but I don't think it's worth somebody's life or their life savings to participate in hazing, but I guess to each his own. I think I've made a pretty good case for the dangers of hazing. So again, this video is for anyone who's interested in pledging in college. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into before you sign the dotted line, okay? Because honestly, hazing isn't just dangerous. There's actually some religious implications, believe it or not, but I'll save that for my next video. If you like this video, be sure to check out my previous videos on this topic.
Everyone has to sign a contract before they get on. That's just what it is with all, because we're all non-hazing organizations. Everyone has a stopping point. If you feel like you can't, you can't. We're not going to look at you differently.